Good day, Ma'am. I am Cindy B. Abjolina, and I am here to present to you my report about the Organization for Purchasing, Storekeeping, and Transportation, Chapter 11. But before we proceed, let us hear first my objectives. At the end of this video, you will be able to learn what are the qualifications that the head of purchasing department should be possessed, the advantages and disadvantages of centralizing the purchasing function, and the third one, we have the importance of transportation. So the next slide, we have the place of purchasing. So the place of purchasing is as old as selling. For the two acts are complementary and one cannot take place without the other. Purchasing has inevitably developed as a part of large-scale business and a department of the specialized functional organization. It has attained ever-increasing importance with the recognition of the fact that mass production operation depends on a steady and reliable flow of materials and supplies, and the cost of these purchased components constitute a major factor of product cost. So the principles and techniques of sound purchasing are usually adaptable and profitable in the operations of business. Public utility and service companies, government units, schools and colleges, hospitals, and other institutions for which goods are bought and used. So the knowledge of these principles and techniques is essential, not only for the person specifically charged with the purchasing responsibility, but equally so for the administrative officers responsible for company policies and organization. So purchasing is generally the term in industry and management used to denote the act and functional responsibility for purchasing the materials and supplies for use. So the term describes the process of buying, learning of the needs, selecting supplier, negotiating price and other pertinent terms, and the following up to ensure delivery. When this is expanded to include production control, traffic, shipping term, materials management is often used. So the next slide, we have here the importance of purchasing. So the importance of purchasing could be further realized by considering it from the standpoint of buying four general types of items and considering different aspects of each types. So these four types are merchandise, materials, equipment, and supplies. The methods of purchase of each is more or less specialized. The next slide, we have here objectives of purchasing. So the purchasing responsibility is sometimes defined as buying materials of the right quality in the right quantity at the right time and the right price of the right source. The fundamental objectives of purchasing for manufacturing industry may be summarized as follows. First, we have to maintain continuity of supplies to support the manufacturing schedule. Second, to do so with a minimum investment in materials inventory consistent with the safety and economic advantage. Third, we have to avoid duplication, waste, and obsolescence with the respect of materials. Fourth, we have to maintain standards of quality in materials based on suitability for use. Fifth, we have to procure materials at the lowest cost consistent with the quality and services required. And the last one, we have to maintain the company competitive position in the industry and to conserve its profit position insofar as materials costs are concerned. Next slide, we have buying merchandise. So merchandise is brought primarily for resale, hence the main features that the buyer must look for are availability, style in case of sale merchandise, and price. So in buying merchandise, the buyer has in his mind the customers to whom he hopes to sell the goods. His success depends on his ability to determine what will sell. There is some guesswork and an element of gambling which attracts many individuals, but the wrong guess surely endangers the job of the buyer. So the buyer of materials, on the other hand, has to locate dependable sources of the specified materials at a reasonable price and has to be sure of delivery. If the materials is not the on time are affected, and if a price is paid, the company has to raise the price of the finished product. So the next slide, we have buying equipment. Equipment is purchased because of the time and labor it will save in turning out accurate and quantity work. But before any of the equipment is purchased, the requirements of the work to be done must be determined and equipment examined as to its suitability for the purpose. So, example, a simple operation whereby not so much factors are dealt with, so that is not advisable to purchase complicated machines. Another consideration is the durability of the equipment. Equipment is expected to last for some time, so that its purchase should be attended with serious care. Next slide, we have buying supplies. Supplies include those items which do enter into the manufacture of the products but are used within the company and are not resold. They are, for example, the stationaries, greases, lubricating oil, soap, toilet paper, and similar items. So the purchase of supplies is generally, although to lesser degree, subject to similar consideration as the purchase of materials, upon specification, inasmuch as supplies are used up within the concern and have no direct effect on customers. Some concerns do not pay as much attention to their purchase as they should. Thus, supplies are likely to be purchased more on a price basis rather than on quality aspects. Organization of the purchasing department. So there are legitimate variations denoting some particular relationships in the purchasing organization. So from the standpoint of the organization as a whole, the purchasing department is a rule facilitating staff department. It makes purchases only on request of the other departments and has no authority to purchase on its initiative. So the purchasing agent is assisted by a group of men known as buyers. These are the men who do the actual buying. They review the requisitions, interview salesmen, determine price, arrange for delivery, and assign of purchase orders. Each buyer is commonly assigned a particular commodity or group of commodities. So first, we have the attending to the indent orders and local purchases. Second, we have the procurement division is charged with the functions of preparations of invitations to bid. And the last one, we have assigned purchases requisition to canvassers. It could be noted in the chart that there are 4 canvassing sections, each one assigned to purchase a certain group of materials. So the next slide, we have here functions of purchasing. So the purchasing department is expected to perform the following or some of the following tasks. So first, we have to secure necessary raw materials, equipment, facilities, supplies, and other items according to the specifications earlier arrived at the time fixed by a schedule or when they are needed. Second, to buy or prices according to the standards demanded within the current market prices. Third, we have to ask the quotations or bids on major items and purchase items not requiring bids. Fourth, we have to cultivate sources of supply. Fifth, to participate in the formulation of specifications of purchases. Sixth, we have to be on the lookout for new products or desirable substitute. 7, to interview salesmen even when what they sell is not needed at that time and help them see companies' executives. The 8th one, we have to study markets and the best time to buy. 9, we have to count and expect and purchases. 10, we have to approve invoices for payment. 11, we have to keep informed the government regulation and executives about them. 12, we have to keep records on supplies, materials, and other purchases. To study company needs and requirements, to attend the routing of purchases, and to look after the disposal of surplus or obsolete materials, equipment, supplies, and merchandise. So the next slide, we have stores and control. So we have here the function. So function of storekeeping is concerned with the providing a place or places for the safe and convenient storing of materials and supplies that are needed for immediate use. So for this forcing such materials as required for and foreseeing it to the supplies do not run out before additional quantities are ordered and received. So one man is usually assigned to take charge and responsible for all aspects of storekeeping. Second one, we have purposes. The purposes of storekeeping and control may be stated into two categories. First, from the viewpoint of the operation, and the second one, we have the financial viewpoint. Next slide, we have location of storerooms. So the location of storerooms is important consideration. It is logical and obvious that the storerooms should be conveniently near to the departments being served, so that no unnecessary time may be lost in getting the items needed. Likewise, the storeroom should be located in such a way that deliveries from an outside source or sources could be facilitated. In order to avoid much handling and transportation, unnecessary handling of materials adds to the cost but not the value. Stock keeping. So any system of stock keeping or stores controls is predicated on the orderly storage of materials under accounting while in storage. Attention must be paid. First, we have your facilities, supervisions, and records. Next slide, we have here the transportation. So, importance of transportation. As a facilitating function of business, cannot be emphasized enough, its effect on the entire economy is pervasive. Thus, a State of the Nation address of the President of the Philippines stresses that the transport sector can be neglected for long without the economy suffering adverse consequences. The system of distribution may ease to function properly. Prices in local markets may fluctuate excessively, inventory requirements may become abnormal, and production incentives may sag, and resources may remain idle for lack of access. So all functions of business, but most especially production and sales, are dependent on a properly managed transportation system. So modes of transportation. So a business firm may depend on outside sources of transportation. In addition, it may operate its own internal transportation facilities. In both instances, the department charged with this function must be staffed by specialists and must make maximum use of planning, scheduling, and specialization and cost controls. So first, we have here outside transportation. The examples of outside transportation may be by truck and bus, by rail, by water, and by air. So trucks and buses are extensively used by business firms in the Philippines. So passengers traffic is also quite heavy. Around this mode of transportation has grown a vast complex involving not only those who work directly in this transportation, but business also those engaged in assembling or repairing motor vehicles, the sales and servicing of vehicles, and the refining and marketing of motor fuels and lubricants, and the maintenance or construction of highways, roads, and bridges. So, water transportation. So, water transportation is even more expensive. But because the Philippines depend heavily on inter-island shipping, both rail and water archipelago of many islands, trade and industry transportation require terminal handling to and from the railway station or port to the firm premises. So we have here air transportation. So it's speedy and efficient but expensive. Business is fast realizing the advantages of air cargo for certain types of merchandise. For instance, fishing magnates regularly fly plane loads of fresh fish from Mindanao to Manila. Newspapers must be delivered by air transport. So, last one, we have your internal transportation. So, fleets are maintained by manufacturing or marketing organization. Usually, the supervision and control of the transportation unit are handled by either production or sales, depending upon which function is serviced. So, according to Mehmet Murad Indan, be like a train, go in the train, go in the sun, go in the storm, go in the dark tunnels. Be like a train, concentrate on your own road and go with no hesitation. And I guess that could be all, ma'am. I am Cindy B. Abdelina from BSHM 2A. Thank you.